Have you ever noticed that you become a completely different person depending on who you're with? With your best friend, you're loud, confident, unstoppable. But put you in a room with strangers and suddenly you're quiet, observing from the corner. You'd probably spend years trying to figure out, am I an introvert or an extrovert? But what if I told you you're neither? You're something else entirely, you're an Otrovert. And if you want to discover more mind-blowing psychology facts that explain why you are the way you are, hit that subscribe button right now because we're about to dive deep into your personality in ways you've never imagined. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into a personality type that most people don't even know exists, but millions experience every single day. If you've ever felt confused about your social identity, if you've ever thought, why do I act so differently around different people, then this video is for you. I'm going to explain the psychology behind this phenomenon, share real-world examples, and most importantly, help you understand yourself better. So let's get into it. So what exactly is an Otrovert? An Otrovert is what psychologists call a social chameleon. Unlike introverts who recharge alone, or extroverts who gain energy from crowds, Otroverts are mirrors. They reflect the energy of whoever is around them. Let me give you a real-life example. Meet Sarah at work. Sarah is the life of the office. She cracks jokes, leads meetings, and everyone thinks she's the most outgoing person they know. But when Sarah goes to a formal dinner with her partner's family, she barely speaks. She smiles politely, answers questions with short responses, and can't wait to leave. Sarah's friends would call her an extrovert. Her partner's family thinks she's introverted. But here's the truth, Sarah is an Otrovert. She doesn't have a fixed social energy, she adapts. Research from Dr. Brian Little, a personality psychologist at Cambridge University, shows that our personality isn't as fixed as we think. He introduced the concept of free traits theory, which explains that people can act out of character when the situation demands it. Otroverts take this to another level. They don't just act differently, they feel different. Now you might be thinking, why does this happen to me? Why can't I just be one way all the time? The answer lies in something called social mirroring, a psychological phenomenon where we unconsciously copy the behavior, speech patterns, and energy of people around us. Here's a fascinating fact. A study published in the Journal of Personality Social Psychology found that people who mirror others are often perceived as more likable and trustworthy. Your brain is literally wired to adapt for survival and connection. Think about this common scenario. You're at a family gathering with your loud, energetic cousins. You're laughing, dancing, completely alive. 3 hours later, you're at a quiet coffee shop with a friend who's going through a tough time. Suddenly, you're calm, thoughtful, speaking softly. Same day, same you, completely different energy. This isn't being fake, this is being an Otrovert. You're not performing, you're responding. Your nervous system picks up on the social cues around you and adjusts accordingly. The famous psychologist Carl Rogers once said, "The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just as I am, then I can change." As an Otrovert, you're constantly changing, and that's actually your superpower, not your weakness. Now, you might have heard of the term ambivert before and think, isn't that the same thing? Not quite, and this is where it gets really interesting. An ambivert is someone who sits in the middle of the introvert-extrovert spectrum. They have a balanced mix of both traits. They can enjoy parties but also need alone time. They're flexible, but they have a core personality that remains relatively stable. An Otrovert, on the other hand, is reactive. They don't just balance between two states, they transform based on their environment. Let me explain with a real example. John is an ambivert. He goes to a party, enjoys himself for a couple of hours, then politely leaves when he needs to recharge. He knows his limits. He has a baseline energy level. Now meet Maya, an Otrovert. Maya goes to the same party. If she's with her close friends, she stays until 3 a.m. and is the last one dancing. But if those friends leave early and she's left with acquaintances, she suddenly feels exhausted and wants to go home immediately. See the difference? John's energy is internally regulated. Maya's energy is externally influenced. Psychologist Dr. Elaine Aron, who studied highly sensitive people, discovered that some individuals have more reactive nervous systems. They don't just feel energy differently, they absorb it from their surroundings. Autroverts often share this trait. Let's talk about why this mirroring happens on a deeper level. Mirror neurons, discovered by neuroscientist Giacomo Rizzolatti in the 1990s, are brain cells that fire both when we perform an action and when we watch someone else perform that action. This is why you might yawn when someone else yawns, or why you feel sad watching a sad movie. For Autroverts, these mirror neurons work over time. You're not just observing others, you're unconsciously becoming them. Here's a relatable example. You're in a meeting with your boss who's serious and formal. You find yourself sitting up straighter, using more professional language, and your whole demeanor shifts. An hour later, you're having lunch with your best friend who's goofy and relaxed. Suddenly, you're slouching, laughing at silly jokes, completely loose. This isn't manipulation. This is your brain's way of creating harmony and connection. Psychologists call this social synchrony, the natural rhythm of human interaction. But here's the problem many Autroverts face. After a long day of mirroring different people, you might feel exhausted and wonder, who am I really? This is what researchers call identity fatigue. A study from the University of Toronto found that people who frequently adapt their personality can experience emotional exhaustion and a weakened sense of self. So what's the problem with being an Autrovert? The biggest challenge is losing touch with your authentic self. When you're constantly reflecting others, you might forget what you actually like, what you actually want, and how you actually feel. Many Autroverts struggle with decision fatigue because they adapt to what others want, people-pleasing tendencies, feeling emotionally drained without understanding why, and difficulty setting boundaries. But here's the good news. Being an Autrovert is actually a gift when you learn to manage it. Here's your solution, the 3 R's. First, recognition. Start noticing when you're mirroring. Ask yourself throughout the day, is this how I really feel, or am I matching someone else's energy? Just awareness alone is powerful. Second, recharge rituals. Unlike pure introverts or extroverts, Autroverts need a special kind of alone time, what I call identity time. Spend 15 to 20 minutes daily doing something that's purely you. Journal, listen to your favorite music, exercise. Activities where you're not responding to anyone else. Third, root yourself, create a personal values list. Write down 5 core things that define you regardless of who's in the room. Maybe it's kindness, honesty, creativity, humor, and curiosity. When you feel lost in social mirroring, come back to these anchors. Dr. Kristen Neff, who studies self-compassion, found that people who maintain a strong sense of self while also being flexible in social situations have the highest life satisfaction. That's the Autrovert sweet spot. So if you've made it this far, you now understand that being an Autrovert isn't a flaw, it's a feature. You have an incredible ability to connect with different types of people, to make others feel comfortable, and to navigate complex social situations. The key is to not lose yourself in the process. Remember, you're not fake. You're not confused. You're not broken. You're an Autrovert, a social chameleon with a superpower that just needs the right management. If this video resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more psychology content that actually helps you understand yourself better. And tell me in the comments, do you think you're an Autrovert? When do you feel most like yourself? Thank you for watching, and remember, understanding yourself is the first step to living authentically. See you in the next video.